So task 2 is going to involve looking at this piece. This is the first piece of work we're going to really look at in detail, and it's by an illustrator called Billie Jean. It has a really nostalgic retro feel to it. And if you look closely, you should be able to see that it's been given the impression that it's been doodled, maybe in a lesson, maybe by a student who's in a lesson. They should have been listening, but they've actually been doing this amazing doodle instead. How do we know it looks like it's been done by a student who's doodling? Well, look at the paper, look at the background texture. It's got the lined paper, particularly with this pink line going across that's so familiar in exercise books. It's got a monochrome colour, which suggests it's been done in pen. So the suggestion is that it's all been done in biro. You can see the little biro lines here and there, like here in the cubes. So it looks like it's actually been drawn, hand drawn. It's a fantastic piece of work. It's very, very involved. This is what the piece of work was actually used for. So it's actually an advert. That's what its purpose is. So you can just see some details here. You can see how large this piece of work was intended to be. And you can see that it's advertising Nike shoes. This one in particular is advertising 30 years of this particular Nike shoe. So let's look at it in a bit more detail. The composition is very important. It uses the rule of thirds. Can you see how the shoe starts off in the middle and then is dominating this bottom rule of thirds really, really well? So this makes the focal point. The shoe is the focal point. How it's done that is because of the scale. It's the largest thing on the page. Its position, it uses the rule of thirds, and it starts by asking us to look at the centre, but also its contrast. Look at the dark and the light parts of the shoe. So the theme is clearly basketball, but we need to delve a little bit further to find out more about this. When you're analysing work, you have to peel back the layers of what you can find out and what you understand. So the piece seems to be an homage to the 80s and basketball. We can tell because of all the basketball iconography, the players, the shoes, and all the shapes of the basketballs. So we know it's basketball themed. However, it's also 80s themed. Now we can tell this because, well, there's a great big 1985 there, and there's also 1985, there's also 85, sorry, repeated there. But look at some of the symbols used. You've got the peace symbol. You've got the Rubik's Cube symbol here on top of someone's body, and you've got the Space Invaders symbol here. So it's got that retro feel. Now then, this is really important. So this is the detailed doodle of Michael Jordan. Now look how detailed this is. There's only Michael Jordan and the shoe drawn in this amount of detail. There is a backstory to this, and the backstory of this is that Michael Jordan used to wear these shoes in 1985 when he played for the Chicago Bulls in America. And he was supposed to wear regulation white, but he didn't, and he wore red and black. And he was fined £5,000 every time he wore the wrong colour shoe. Eventually, Nike cottoned onto this and brought out their own shoe based on his brilliance and his cheekiness, if you like. So this piece is all a bit of hero worship about the shoe and Michael Jordan. Now look at the repeated shapes. The circle shapes are all over the piece. They're overlapping, and these are supposed to convey the shapes of the basketball bouncing across the court. So some pieces you can actually hear, they've almost got a soundtrack to them. So you should be able to hear that as a bit of a rhythm. Now the bulldog up in the corner, this could be a reference to the fact that Michael Jordan did a film called Space Jam in 1996, and there is a character called Charlie who is a bulldog in this particular film. But again, notice how some parts of this image are drawn in a very detailed way, and some parts of it are drawn in quite a naive, childlike way. It's supposed to look like a young artist is doodling. There are lots of little bits in here that are so good. I particularly like this character here with the hair round and round and round and round, and he's such a tall basketball player. His feet come out underneath the word vandal. Look at the word vandal, the way it's drawn. It's not quite consistent and it's slightly wonky, but that gives it an added charm. These intricate patterns are lovely as well, the way the lace actually becomes the arms of the basketball players, and you've got this interlocking space shape here. Now this is supposed to represent the freneticism and the fast pace of the basketball game. And again, some areas of this piece are left really dark and some areas are left very, very white and unshaded. This helps to give it some visual punctuation.